Hello and welcome to lesson 1 of week 5. In this lesson, we are going to look at images and carousel in Bootstrap 5. My name is Mildred. We have a template HTML file that we are going to work with, and we are going to use this file to illustrate all of the different utility classes that we have in Bootstrap 5. Now, Bootstrap provides utility classes that we use to make images responsive, to style images, and to align them without using custom CSS. We have these images here. These are random images from the internet that we'll use to illustrate this. We want to have a responsive image. When we use custom CSS, we want an image to be responsive. We set the max width property to 100%, and then we set the height to auto, and then that image will scale with the screen size. But for us to do this using Bootstrap 5, we are going to use the utility class called image fluid, and we can come here to put a class. So this is a random image, and we'll put the class attribute with the value of image fluid like this. We can also put another class around it. So for the first image here, when we go back to our web page and we refresh, so we have this first image with image fluid and rounded. Now let's look at how we can use other utility classes on images that we can use to style the image. We can have an image as a thumbnail. So here we can use, let me put the class attribute is equal to, we can now have image thumbnail, and we can make it a rounded circle like this. So when you refer to your lesson resource, you'll see all of the different classes that we have that we can add. So we can see this is a rounded circle image. This is a responsive image. When you resize your screen, it is going to collapse to your screen size. Alright, so we have these different properties to make thumbnails with our image, to make the image responsive, to have rounded corners for our images as well. When we want to align these images to specify the different floats, we can add float start, float end. We can also add D block. Let's do that here. So we have this and put float start, or let's say this is float end, and then we want to add, let's say I'll make this float start here. We'll put float start, and we can use D block, something like this. So we have all these classes. I want you to refer to your lesson resource. Look at how it displays when you use those styles. Now let's look at how we can work with carousel. When we talk about carousel, we mean sliding images or banners or featured content that will have arrows that keeps moving on the screen. And it has a basic structure that uses a class for carousel slide, and we also have an attribute called database, right? Let's do this so you can see. So now for the carousel, we need to specify those classes, and one of the first thing we want to do here is to put an ID attribute on the external container with the value, and this is the first style we add to it. Now we want to have a class for this, and for this we'll specify the class attribute is equal to the value of carousel slide, and then we'll have database right here, and the value will be equal to carousel. All right, now the next thing we want to do now is to look for the inner one, which is the first div tag we have here. We want to put a class with a value of carousel inner like this. We want to have the first item that is active to have a class of carousel item active like that. Now we have the image already here. We have the alt attribute here. We can put a class for this image. Let's say class will be equal to, let's have the D block, and we'll have width 100 like this. Now when we come to our web page and we refresh, we see that we've done this previous and next, but we've not really put this to start sliding image yet. So we're going to continue building that. Now this is slide 1 image. We want to have another image for slide 2. We want to have another image for slide 3. So now this is going to be a carousel item. So the first one is we have a carousel item and it's active, and this is for the inner carousel, and the carousel slide, the div tag, the container outside, is going to have the class carousel slide. So for this other one, we still have a class of carousel item. We want the image to have class of D block with 100, and we already have the image here. Then we want to have same thing for the third one. The class will be equal to carousel item. We'll put the image class to be D block 100 like that. Now we have done all of these. We have all of the carousel items, and we want to work on these buttons for previous and next. This button we can put a class attribute, and then we'll make the value to be carousel previous. So in Bootstrap 5 we have carousel control prev, so it will be previous, and then we'll put a type attribute, and the value is going to be button, and then we also have the database target, and the database target here is going to be this ID my carousel. So we use the hash my carousel, and we want to put the slide to be previous, so we can put like data BS slide, and this is going to be previous, like this. We'll do the same thing for the next button also. So when we have this, we might want to have the icon, the previous icon, and we can use a span tag to do that. So we can say span class, and the value will be carousel control prev, okay, and then we close span. Now for the next button, we put a class with the value of carousel control next, and then we have the type to be equal to button, and then we have the data BS target to be my carousel and the slide next. Then we can also put a span tag here to have the icon. So we have the next icon here. Data BS slide, we put prev and we write previous here. So one thing we can do here is, instead of using previous here, we put this span tag here so that we don't write previous, right? And we'll close button, and we'll do this between the start and end. Okay, instead of next, we'll do it like this. And so when we refresh, we're going to have the arrows like this. This goes previous, this goes next. So you can see that. So this is how we create carousel using Bootstrap 5. In the next lesson, we're going to look at how to use badges, progress bars, spinners, and also how we can paginate the table using Bootstrap 5. Thank you, and see you in the next lesson.